So Tempest, can you believe that this is already our third episode of Remedy This Podcast?
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like it, but I think that's because last time we didn't have the energy that we have today because I was tired and you were tired. So I think this is going to be good. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, no, I've been having a good time having these conversations about Remedy games and our thoughts and theories, and yeah, I think it's been pretty fun.
It's nice to get it off of our chest.
It really is, yeah. So we got a lot of things to talk about.
We do. Yeah. What do you want to talk about first?
Let's see.
A lot has happened this week.
Yeah, a lot. So first, just want to say, difference between target fixation and Remedy This Podcast. I know a lot of people have been kind of getting confused with both of them. Target fixation being our channel where we do videos and live streaming, and where Remedy This is our podcast.
Yeah, just all Remedy, like nothing else. Only Remedy stuff, updates and thoughts and theories.
That's right. And in addition to having the two YouTube channels, we also have two X accounts.
Yeah, one for each.
Yeah.
So that I think is something that people have been kind of confused about, is that we have, Remedy This YouTube channel and X account, and Target Fixation Gaming YouTube and X account. So yeah, so hopefully that'll start circulating.
Yeah, I think so. And I think as we keep doing more and more of these podcasts, I think people will catch on that we do have the two separate channels. And,
Yeah. But Target Fixation Gaming, we do more than just Remedy stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about, this is that it's just all Remedy.
That's right. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is we had talked about the new 10 p.m. time slot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 9 o'clock, I think, is just kind of early for people on Sundays.
I think you're right, yeah. And I know the other thing we talked about was we were going to circulate posts about Remedy games at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, the ones that get, held or missed that are from during the week. Yeah, we could probably play those at the end, do kind of a slideshow.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, because some of them are really fun.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and if they missed them on X, then they'd be able to see them here.
Which people probably do.
Yeah.
Because X holds up. But, as we gain more traction with Remedy This Podcast, more people are starting to see them. So that's a good thing.
So I know in our last podcast, we were talking about episode 8 of Twin Peaks and kind of correlated it with the age of the oldest house. Because I know in 1945 that the nuclear bomb had been tested, and you had made correlations between that and Control, and you had said you found out some new information.
Yeah, we were talking about, the oldest house, how old the oldest house might be.
Yeah.
Now, what my video was all about, the stream that you weren't there for, was about the connections between David Lynch's fiction that he used the real life event of that Trinity nuclear test and applied that towards his story in Twin Peaks. So yeah, the nuclear test happened in 1945, and as far as the oldest house goes, I still don't know, but I was able to find out that through some of my notes that the oldest altered item was the fan in 1954. So we know it goes back at least that far, but other than that, I don't know. Like I said, the foundation was my least favorite part, is my least favorite DLC. So I might not remember everything perfectly, but I don't remember a document that said exactly how old they thought the oldest house was.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I remember kind of speculating. It was like, yeah, we should go back, take a look at all the documents, and see what the dates were for all the AWEs and the altered items. Yeah. So, that's good to know that it does come after 1945. So, yeah, you never know that the oldest house could have become into existence
before then. Yeah, absolutely.
So earlier this week, Remedy treated us with a new document.
Yeah, they did. Everyone was very surprised by it. including myself, I can admit that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it's always nice when Remedy drops little tidbits of information. And
Yeah, although I can say that this one wasn't quite as popular. This is maybe something else might have been, but that's probably Remedy's intention. And I think it's good that we're getting it early.
I do too, and I'm sure it's well timed on Remedy's part. We still don't know the release date, but with the dropping of this new document, it does get people talking and gets people speculating about Control Resonant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It caused a lot of conversation, and we did do a post on it that got a lot of views. It was over 4,000 at this point at the time of this recording, and most people in agreement with the statement that I made on it, which was that Dr. Darling isn't necessarily everyone's favorite right now.
Yeah, it's kind of comes as a shock. I mean, I know me personally, I was kind of partial to Dr. Darling just with his quirky attitude, and I especially like in the game when he sings Dynamite.
Yeah.
that's kind of funny. And
Well, I did read for this recording. I read the document, so we could probably go ahead and play that real quick before we continue on.
yeah, sounds good.
Dylan Faden, P6. Since waking from his comatose state at Redacted on Redacted, Faden has proven cooperative with all FBC efforts to resolve the unfolding Altered World event. Assigned Special Agent Zoe De Vera as his handler, Faden has thus far been single-minded in his pursuit of the whereabouts of his sister, Bureau Director Jesse Faden. Faden is in possession of the object of power designated the Aberrant, acquired and bound to Faden during Redacted. Due to the current crisis faced by the Bureau, all necessary provisions should be made for Faden to utilize the object to its full potential. Faden should be approached with caution. Prolonged isolation in Bureau custody since age 10 has left Faden wary of human contact, though recently documented interactions have suggested a tentative desire to connect with others. Due to his volatile temperament and the unpredictable nature of his Redacted, see case 45HQ121, Faden has been fitted with a control failsafe in the form of an Redacted, affixed to the rear of his cranium.
Yeah, so the document was kind of an interesting read, learning about what happened when Dylan wakes up from his coma.
Yeah, they put him to work right away.
Yeah, those fuckers.
Yeah, I can agree.
I mean, they treat Dylan like shit, and then he goes into a coma, and then as soon as he wakes up, they put him right back to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe why they fit him with that failsafe, because his behavior is unpredictable, but they want his help.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the failsafe is actually for everybody or maybe for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like after everything that they put him through, maybe they're afraid he'll lash out on them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the failsafe is to protect them.
Yeah.
It's still messed up though.
Yeah, it is really messed up that they would do that to him. Kind of speculating as to why Dylan is so out of control.
Yeah, and that had a lot to do with, again, the way he was treated, and that Dr. Darling was sort of the reason behind that. I mean, I guess he was. I mean, they were doing the Prime Candidate program that was, kind of trenches thing and everything, but Dr. Darling was he believed so blindly that Dylan was going to be this great, director and have, these powers. And it sounds like he does have a lot of, that he's very powerful. But Dr. Darling just pushed and pushed, even though he knew he shouldn't. When he killed Roberts early on, he should have known then. And everyone else did. Marshall did, and she tried to discourage it, and he didn't listen to her. So.
Yeah, he really should have heeded their warnings. I mean, in one of the Darling videos, he says, boys will be boys. Mm-hmm. But
he was trying to convince himself.
He was, and probably wasn't the best judgment on Darling's part.
No, absolutely not. And the fact that they put him through this abuse and neglect and psychological torment with these, interviews they were doing. I guess they weren't interviews. They were just sessions of some type where they were, just pushing him and just sort of tormenting him psychologically. The isolation, no peer interaction, and then abandonment issues. Dr. Darling turned his back on him. and he wouldn't go see him anymore. And, of course he felt in the game that Jesse abandoned him, and that, so he has a lot that stacked up on him over the years, psychologically.
Yeah, and I would be curious why Darling just kind of so blindly believed that it should be Dylan. Dylan should be the next director. I know he had mentioned that Dylan had Northmore-like readings, but you look at what happened with Northmore, who's to say the same thing couldn't have happened with Dylan, especially after the way that the FBC had treated him.
Yeah, he thought it was going to be different because Dylan was a child. And I think that he thought if they, took him as a child, that they can raise him to be a director in a proper way. Like, he was not flawed like an adult. And that may be why it would work.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got out of it.
That makes sense, because when you look at all the documents that talk about Northmore, it seemed like Northmore was very power hungry. That kind of led to his downfall, and then eventually putting him...
The NSC?
The NSC.
Yeah. You know what this kind of actually reminds me of? It reminds me of, that old movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah.
So the whole point behind Willy Wonka's, having all those kids come in was because he wanted a child to take over, because he knew that an adult would come and just be selfish and just like ruin everything. As to where a child, with the innocence, at least the ones that made it out, which is of course Charlie. And he, when he gave back that candy that was supposed to be top secret, and he didn't want, it to be given away, and the recipe or whatever to be given away, Charlie gave it back to him because he wanted him to know that he wasn't going to do that. He wasn't going to do him dirty. Like his actually grandfather said he would. Let's go give that, what was it, everlasting candy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah, we'll go give this to, this other person who turned out to be a plant. And so yeah, it almost is like the same idea that a child can do better because they're not flawed like an adult.
That makes a lot of sense, especially like you said, with the child's innocent mind. If you raise them to not be so power hungry, to not be so corrupt, that it probably would be a better chance that they would be a better director, at least in theory.
Yeah, but the way they went about it, it makes me wonder if that's why they isolated him, so that way he wouldn't have outside influence. But it didn't help. Not at all. All it did was damage him. And there was the document that we read last time on the last podcast, which talks about the ethical concerns and the complaint that was filed. And no one really wanted to talk about it, but Kirkland did bring it up. And we don't know what came out of that. It doesn't really say.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do have a theory. So, how I said that, Dr. Darling is kind of like, how do I put it mildly, like not very popular right now. And Dr. Darling, I think, is being singled out because he was the one in charge. And he allowed Dylan to, be, treated this way and then turned his back on him. I agree. But the thing that's interesting is that for all of these years, people have loved Dr. Darling. You were Dr. Darling for Halloween one year.
That's right, I was.
Yeah, and so and his dance and his name, Dr. Darling. It's almost as if, and I don't know if this was on purpose, but Remedy managed to conduct a really interesting social experiment. And I believe I did post this on X, so my theory is that the reason why we love Darling so much is because we don't see him at all. We just see these quirky little, presentations and his, like I said, his name, Dr. Darling, so innocent. He appears as such. And we hear only recordings of other FBC members, pushing and prodding and harassing Dylan. And we sort of forget that Dr. Darling was the head of all this stuff, like I said. So even if we walk away from the game thinking that the FBC is messed up, which they are, we did, Dr. Darling seemed to get a pass from everyone. We all love Dr. Darling. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about as far as like if you're conducting a social experiment, that you manage to get people to like someone who is inherently shouldn't have been likable. You know, he was the one behind it. And so now, again, like I said, he's getting a lot of like, yeah, he's not so popular anymore, you know, because people are starting to realize now, like, oh yeah, duh, he was like, you know what I mean? And it has nothing to do with not being smart. You know, it's like, it reminds me of those people that, you know, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the people that appear that they're very likable, and they're very, you know, personable, and you trust them, and it turns out that like they're the opposite. But all you see is, you know, there's the two faces.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's supposed to, you know, the two-faced thing, you know, that kind of makes me think of like, you know, kind of a sneaky way of, you know, Alan Wake, you know. But since they do the same, and that's another thing, they gave us the voice of Matthew Peretta, Alan Wake, and I think that just made us like him even more. So interesting to see now how that actually flipped. And I'm not saying I hate Dr. Darling, but I don't like his actions, and it's interesting that it just went right by me because of all the other distractions with all the other FBC, you know, researchers and scientists that just participated in this, and we don't see or hear him doing it himself. And I think that's why it just kind of slipped right by us, and we let his charming personality get to us.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because he does have that charming personality. He's kind of quirky and funny, and we really only see him in the Darling presentations, and then also those videos that he made at the very end when he's kind of losing his shit and taking his clothes off. And then also in Alan Wake 2 when he has that, you know, encounter with Tom Zane.
Oh yeah.
And that was also kind of a little funny encounter. So
yeah, we're only seeing these things that are entertaining to us.
Yeah.
In a positive way.
Yeah, and since this is all we're seeing, then that's the only conclusion that we're able to draw about Dr. Darling. I mean, we don't see any of the actual interactions between Darling and Dylan and how those go. We just hear about Dylan asking, you know, where's Casper? He didn't want to come see me, but we never actually get any of those interactions at all during the first Control game.
No, we don't ever see it. We don't see what their relationship was like before. We only see kind of like the aftermath that, you know, Dr. Darling abandoned him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, where is he? You know, he never comes to see me anymore. And tell him that, you know, what happened, it was an accident, but I can control it now. And, you know, he's so desperate. That may be the only... That's probably the closest he had to a father or just any kind of family at the time.
Yeah, because, I mean, you don't really hear too much about anyone else in the FBC interacting with Dylan. I mean, you get, you know, if you're therapists or whatever, but it does seem like Darling was the one that spent the most amount of time with Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so moving on. So we have... about the fail-safe.
Oh, yeah.
Whether, you know, theory about it being a bomb or other ways that could work.
Yeah, I did mention this. I replied to someone on X, because everybody's like, it immediately exploded into, no pun intended, this bomb theory that what they implanted was a bomb. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to argue that it can't be, but what I would argue is that it might not be. Mm-hmm. It could be something that just renders him unconscious mm-hmm. or disables him in some way. Mm-hmm. But we don't know yet.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thought because, you know, say hypothetically it is a bomb that would kill Dylan. I mean, is that what the FBC would really want? I mean, say say they are still considering him as director. I mean, even though he hates the FBC.
I don't think they would.
Yeah. But I mean, say they want to use him for some other purposes and they wouldn't want to kill him, that they just want to, like you said, render him unconscious. So it's hard to know what the FBC wants out of him or doesn't want out of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that they probably don't want him to go after them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the failsafe is like for their own protection. So I think that's what we had talked about before. So, we're not sure yet. All we know is that, it's messed up. A lot of people think the same thing, that it's just cruelty on top of all this other cruelty. He's being made out. He was turned into a villain, I guess. We'll see if in the next game, in Control Resonant, that he is or he isn't. I think he, like I said from the very beginning, that I think that he is on not a mission to save Manhattan, but he's on a mission to find Jesse. And it sounds like that's what it is from that document that I read, earlier in this video, that they said he's single-minded in finding Jesse, his, quest to find her.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And because he obviously still cares about Jesse. And also, another thought for the failsafe, depending on Dylan's source of his powers. I know we had had a discussion about this earlier, and when you go in and meet Dylan for the first time, and he mentions my powers are my own powers, and
he was his influence at the time.
He was he was his influence, and say hypothetically that he gets his powers from the hiss. And one of the things that we had discussed was the mold being kind of like repelling the hiss, and say the failsafe has something to do with mold. If Dylan does get his powers from the hiss, that it could render him just completely powerless.
Yeah, I mean, he is different. Like Emily said, he's different. He seems more in control. But since the hiss has been cleansed out of him, allegedly, that's what happened at the end of the game, then it'd be interesting to see what he's like, now that he doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And when he wakes up. But I do have a theory, though. And this goes back to, of course, Control, because that's all we have right now is to go off of what we learned in Control. Okay, so I had always felt like the FBC didn't want Jesse to see Dylan alone. How she comes in and that's what she's there for. She's looking for her brother. And they send her on all these missions first. And I know we've brought this up before, but they didn't tell her or say or even suggest one way or another that he was hiss or might have been hiss or whatever, or that there was a way he could have been corrupted. They just said, he's where he's at. He's in the panopticon, and you have to do all these other things first before we tell you where he's at. And that was Marshall that did that. She was withholding that information. Now, during this time, Salvador and his team went to retrieve Dylan before Jesse could get to him. Now, that's just my speculation based off of how things happened. I think that he slipped past Langston's notice by creating distractions, by them, like Marshall and Salvador, creating distractions like disabling cameras, which Langston complained about. And there's 2 Rangers in the room with Langston, if you remember right. There's 2 Rangers in there the whole time, and we're not really sure why, but they're guarding they're in front of it like a different door that maybe goes to the other side of, how where Jesse enters the panopticon? Well, they're standing in front of like another opening. Maybe that goes to another side of the panopticon where there's an elevator that will actually take people up to, beyond the 5th or the 4th or 5th floor. Because Jesse can't actually get to P6 cell unless she has levitate. Because we have to, as the player, make her levitate up to that platform to get up onto, the next level where he's at. So, like, you cannot get there before fighting Salvador, though. And so, what I think might have happened is that possibly Salvador and his team were attacked by the Hiss. And because they were found in the room where the Benikoff TV was. Remember, Langston was complaining about the Benikoff TV tearing everything up. And, and of course, the Hiss are like involved in this. So I think it's possible that while they were bringing Dylan out, that maybe they got attacked by the Hiss because the Hiss were like tearing everything up. There's Hiss all over the Panopticon. As a matter of fact, Archives is one of the places I hate going the most because there's so many Hiss and they just don't stop coming. They're just constantly attacking you. It's like, damn it, I'm trying to find things, So, I think it's possible that they got attacked and corrupted. And now Dylan tells Jesse, when he's in the containment cell in Central Executive, he tells Jesse that he has Salvador's key card because Salvador gave it to him. And she's like, yeah, right, But what happens is she goes and she is able to get access to, security 6 or whatever, level 6 security. Now, I played this yesterday because I wanted to be double sure. But when you get to Dylan, you, like for the first time, there's a door in there, just one door. And it's funny because there's not much in there. It's like, why is that? Did I come back here just for this door to go in and get one of those, those containers that you get the elements or whatever, the powers for power-ups. And so I remember going back because you can't get in. And by then you already have Salvador's ID card. Now the ID cards are different from key cards. And I never really thought too much about that. So she fights Salvador first, which you have to do before you can progress because you need levitate again to get to Dylan. So you get his ID card, you go and you get into P6 cell, but then you try to get into the level 6 security door that's in, the room where Dylan is supposed to be being held, that he's not there anymore, and you can't get in. You need level 6 clearance. So when you go and visit Dylan and he says, I'll give you the key card, you leave that room with level 6 clearance. How does that happen? You know what I mean? Like he didn't, how could he give it to her through the glass? I don't know if it's a psychological thing, like, like it, ESP or, shared, sort of, but even then it's like, it's not a physical key card. But so much of this stuff is like, comes across as dream logic. You know how Jesse says, well, this place is, basically she's admitting this place is terrible. All these terrible things are happening there, but she likes being there and she wants to be there. It's so bizarre. Yeah. But all these things that don't make sense, like Auntie reading her mind and she just doesn't say anything about it. That sounds to me like dream logic. It makes sense to her in a dream. But in real life, you'd be like, hey, how'd you know that I was thinking that?
Yeah. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And also in that conversation that she has with Langston when she's talking with them through the intercom, Langston says, wow, this is really exciting. And then Jesse says, yeah, maybe from where you're, you're standing.
And then she changes her mind.
And then she changes her mind. But it's like, if it's in a dream and you're doing the same type of thing, it would be kind of fun to go around, killing all these bad guys and everything. Yeah, if it was a dream, it would be fun. But, in real life, maybe not so much.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't think of it as fun at all. I mean, she's there to rescue her brother.
Yeah.
So if she wants to stay there forever because she says she doesn't want to leave, then what is she going to do with Dylan?
Yeah, and then also that conversation that Jesse has with Dylan when he's in that containment unit, how Dylan keeps talking about his dreams. And especially that one where he's talking about him talking to Jesse and in this moment.
And he's watching.
So maybe it is kind of dream logic how he does give that key card to Jesse just kind of magically.
Because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But she calls that out at first. She's like, I think she's like bullshit or something.
Yeah.
I saw how Salvador, you know, because she had, but she because she had already been past Salvador, couldn't get into the level 6 clearance in Dylan's cell. So we leave, we go talk to Dylan, and you know, I don't know if anyone, if many people go back to that, you know, P6 room and go into that door. But see, there's nothing really important in there. And it could be that was their way, like Remedy's way of like getting us to go back to see if we put it together. That's just a thought. I mean, I could be completely wrong. It turns out actually that some information was posted from the Edge magazine that Dylan's, I guess it was said by, I think, Sam Lake. Don't quote me on that because, like I said, I just read this part of an article someone showed on X. But he says that Dylan's bald head was not necessarily from the hiss, but from like basically being in prison. You know how in prison they make you buzz cut your hair or whatever, the military and stuff like that, because they don't want to keep up your appearance. You know what I mean? Like that would be, you know, should they shave your head? I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
But also what it does is trick us into thinking that maybe that was because of the hiss. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like it could have been, but, you know, according to Sam Lake, that was not the case. Like, they just were shaving his head while treating him as a prisoner, which was completely fucked up, you know?
Yeah. Huh. That is an interesting thought that they say it is just to, like, you know, like he is in prison. Although in prison, I think they do leave a little stubble, whereas
like a buzz cut.
Like a buzz cut, yeah.
Like the military.
Yeah, like the military, because you do get a little bit of hair, whereas Dylan was completely bald, like he, you know, had a straight razor or something to his head.
Well, I would think it kind of doesn't make sense to have everybody looking the same in prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because then how do you know, like, who did, you know what I mean? If you see something happening and you see someone punch and then they dog pile on top of each other, and then it's like you don't know which one did it because they all look the same.
Right. Maybe the guards just don't care.
Maybe they don't. I don't know. So, yeah. What do we got next?
So, yeah, I know we're going to address the difference between the Mind Place in Alan Wake 2 versus the Gap in Control Resonant.
Yeah, because they did describe it as, like on the previews, is similar to the Mind Place.
Yeah, it did. Like, yeah, and watching the previews, it did look kind of similar. You know, where you're able to go upgrade your items and I guess kind of like a quote unquote pause menu, but where you're able to do
like change your weapons.
Yeah, change your weapons.
Yeah, well, you know, I've heard a lot of, not heard, I can't say heard because I don't watch videos except for the ones like Remedy puts out. But on X, you know, some people have posted, oh, well, you know, yeah, he's, you know, of course he doesn't have anything in there. He's, you know, been kept in prison and he doesn't know anything or, you know, whatever. And like, I kind of tend to agree with that. Like, I think that, you know, obviously Saga's Mind Place is, you know, there's a lot of memories and things that she has in her life. She has pictures of Logan and Casey and like a salt shaker. Remember, it reminds her of the time she played that joke on Casey. And, you know, Dylan doesn't have anything like that. I'm sure he should have memories from when he was like, you know, 10 years old, but he doesn't have any new memories. And he certainly doesn't have any good memories. You know? Yeah. And we tend to want to block out bad memories. But what do you replace it with when you have no good memories for the past, you know, however many years? How many years was it? 17? Yeah. 17 years. So maybe that's the gap. You know, a nothing for 17 years. You know, maybe he's blocking it out. I don't really know for sure. But as far as like the gap goes, and it's weird because when he goes into the gap, at least what they show on the gameplay trailer, is that he just kind of falls to the ground. Unlike where in the Mind Place, Saga just kind of goes there. And she has complete control over what she's doing. You know, she's standing there and she goes in when she needs to, or when the player needs to. So, but she doesn't collapse. He collapses, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. And also just the name itself, the gap. I mean, that does make sense that if he does have all of those lack of memories, that it would be kind of like a gap.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, as far as talking about Saga, and Alan, if you want to do some comparing, Saga in her mind place, she's like living in her head, right? Alan is trapped in the dark place, the dark depths of his mind, which is kind of like taking from that poster, the Tom Zane one, or the diver one. And it's totally true. But Dylan literally has a gap in his memory, likely, or it's possible that he has a gap in his memory. It's possible Jessie has a gap in her memory. They don't seem to be able to know much about their past. They say, I don't know, and they say, I don't remember. So we don't know what they know or remember, but so far it's like not a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dylan, maybe he has that gap in his memory. And perhaps the more he explores and learns about the Bureau, Jesse and documentations of his past, if there's any, then maybe he'll start to remember some things and fill in that gap.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense. And I'll be curious to learn more about that. Say he does have a map of the city, kind of like how Saga had a map in her mind place. Same with Alan Wake. If it is similar to that. Tell you what, though, if Dylan has a case board, I'm going to lose my shit.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I think most people weren't really fans of the case board. It really took up a lot of time. Yeah. So, I mean, we do get to find out some, additional little details here and there, but didn't really make me feel like a detective or anything. It just was an extra thing I had to do that took away from, actually playing the game. But this game, Control Resonant, is supposed to be super action focused.
Yeah. So. And watching the trailers, it looks like it'll be a lot of fun.
I think it will be. Yeah. What I kind of question now is, now that they've released the information that Dylan has possibly a bomb strapped to his head by the FBC, by their admission, I mean, it's in the document, that how that received a lot of negative feedback, and not necessarily negative towards Remedy, negative towards the FBC, and most importantly, Darling. So how, I'm going to be concerned the whole time. Are they going to blow him up? What are they going to do to him? And it's going to be kind of unnerving, I think, for me anyway, because I don't dislike Dylan. I never have. Dylan was a victim.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that's treated the way that the FBC treated Dylan, I'm sure would turn out the same way. I mean, he's got a lot of trauma, PTSD from what happened with him back at Ordinary, and then being brought to the FBC and being subjected to being locked up in essentially a prison.
Yeah, and not having anyone to actually ground him and help him. Because Dr. Darling split, and there's no documentation now. Something that we have to remember, that I keep trying to remind myself, is not to try to fill in the gaps, no pun intended, too much. Because Remedy hasn't released a lot of information. So right now we're speculating and theory crafting. And then when they allow, get more information out, then we can, build on that. But, as far as we know, they kept him in a cell and just left him there and observed him. But it's not suggested that anyone actually tried to help him learn to control his powers. They just kept him in the cell. So maybe he didn't learn how to control his powers, and he's just kind of a time bomb. Again, no pun intended. Talking about bombs here. A lot of talk about bombs and social media, and Like I said, I'm not denying that it could be. I don't know. They haven't really said yet what the failsafe actually will do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also, being locked up in the FBC, I'm sure Dylan didn't really have a lot of opportunity to test out his powers. Whereas now that he's out in the city, he's having to fight all these enemies, that he is able to kind of more let loose and kind of test out his powers and see what it's all about.
Yeah, it's interesting though when you think about it. If he had these powers and he was locked in the room, remember the document that talks about him watching TV and they start getting pissed off about something, and then they had to take the TV away, which sucks because that was probably his only form of entertainment.
Yeah.
You would think that he would have busted out of there a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we don't know what, going back to things we don't know when that implant was, when they put that implant, that fail safe.
Mm-hmm. We
don't know if Jesse knew about it, if it was something they just went ahead and did, like kind of like Emily, she just sort of did whatever she felt like. We don't know who ordered it, who did it. I guess we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting. And, how we talked about, actually going back to the key card thing really quick, how he managed to get Jessie into that room. Mm-hmm. He managed to get her level 6 clearance, which allowed her to go places. Who's to say that it wasn't him that allowed her into the oldest house?
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible.
Yeah, now that you mention it, you're told in the game that, it's Polaris that led Jessie to the oldest house.
Yeah, she led her there.
Mm-hmm. And then they mentioned at the beginning too that unless you're looking for it, you're not going to be able to find the oldest house. So
Mm-hmm.
It could always be a combination as well.
Mm-hmm.
With Polaris and Dylan, between two powerful beings that
Mm-hmm.
was able to grant her access.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely possible. And maybe that's why the whole key card thing happens, because it shows that he is somehow able to help her get into places.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a theory. It's kind of out there maybe, but I think the more I think about it, the more, it kind of tends to make, because Polaris isn't necessarily like described to be this like, all, have power over everything. Mm-hmm. Like she can lead Jessie. She's the guiding star. She can lead Jessie, but it doesn't mean she can just get her into anywhere she wants to go. Mm-hmm. And Dylan, having basically lived most of his life at the oldest house and having the powers that he does, maybe that's one of them. Mm-hmm. And maybe he did that to, because there was his corruption coming, or maybe he didn't. I don't know. And and that's another thing where you think he would have done this a long time ago, but maybe he did finally accept Polaris's messages. Mm-hmm. Because remember, she was trying to communicate with him, and he told her, to fuck off. Mm-hmm. At least in the tape, it wasn't one of the tapes. It was the documentation. He's saying, don't show her to me. What can I do? I can't do anything from here. Mm-hmm. Maybe it turned out that he was eventually able to finally do something. So mm-hmm. Polaris, I think she probably kept coming back to him. Maybe he finally started to listen to her, but maybe he wasn't also expecting to be, influenced by the hiss. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something that Polaris, intended to protect him from that, just like she protects Jessie from that.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because, in that recording where he tells Polaris to fuck off, it's like, why are you showing me these pictures? Why are you showing me these things that I have no control over? There's nothing I can do about this.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then, say after Jessie does come to the oldest house and he does see Jessie in person, and I know he gets pissed off when Polaris kind of mm-hmm. flares up around Jessie, and he sees her and he's like, you!
But that's because he's not corrupted maybe, mm-hmm. but influenced by the hiss isn't going to like her.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so, who knows? Maybe he does finally accept Polaris and does get some of his powers, if not all, from Polaris, the same way that Jesse does.
Yeah. And something I also found interesting that when I was paying careful attention to, what I was playing last night was that he starts to go into talking about the hiss. He refers to the hiss as a he eventually. Mm-hmm. He starts talking about the hiss in he's like, I forgot what he said. I think he was referring to like the people being afraid of him at first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is he referring to the hiss as a he? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like we've referred to Polaris as a she.
Right.
So maybe there's something sort of like that happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a good theory.
It's, I don't know. There's a lot of things, like even in that game, a lot not shared with us. Mm-hmm. And hopefully hopefully they will.
Yeah.
I can see it going a couple ways. I can see them saying, okay, we're done with this part. Let's move on. Mm-hmm. But there's still unanswered questions. Mm-hmm. And we want to know what those answers are.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've definitely been really, I know we're talking about this a lot, but yeah, where the source of Dylan's powers come from. And, maybe part of it is from the board as well. The documents and the recordings and everything you hear about Northmore, where his powers come from, and again how Dr. Darling kind of compares Dylan to Northmore, how his readings are Northmore level. Yeah. So also, who's to say that Dylan doesn't get his powers from the same place that Northmore does?
Yeah, and we know that a lot of Jesse's powers, obviously, since we're playing the game, we have to find these certain items, mm-hmm. and we have to, cleanse them, and then we take on the powers that they have, like levitate or, the shield or mm-hmm. whatever. Anything that, whatever it is that object does, the nuclear codes mm-hmm. that allows her to launch.
Right.
So, and that was like on that, floppy disk?
Yeah.
What is a floppy disk? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's there's a lot of questions. I hope we get answers to some of them, but I know it's going to be very Dylan focused. However, Dylan did grow up in the old house, so true. I want some information.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, and I have a good feeling that we'll get plenty of information as soon as the game comes out. And it is kind of cool too that we will get to see little essentially nodes of the oldest house around the environment that we'll be able to play through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I am really excited for this game. And there's something that just happened today. As we're recording this, what happened this morning, I woke up to something really interesting, and that was the Phasmophobia by Kinetic Games, I guess. Mm-hmm. And you saw it too.
Yeah.
They're going to, this Phasmagoria, they're going to have an Alan Wake experience. I think it's only for a short period of time, though. Mm-hmm. And they said across all platforms, so we should be able to play it. Yeah. Most people, anyone should be able to play it, apparently. And I think it's going to be interesting. I've read some. Now this has been around for a while. It is like it's like you can play with up to 4 players, but you can also play solo. Mm-hmm. And it's been around for a while. So I've seen some people that have been playing this game for a while say, "Oh, I wonder how this is going to work." It's like they're unsure, but they're not closed-minded to it. Mm-hmm. They're just like, because it's not part of how the game usually goes, it's like kind of being added, and maybe that's why it's for a limited time, so that way they can, share this experience with Remedy and then go back to what they normally do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After seeing that little preview of it, it looks pretty cool. And
it does.
Yeah, I'm excited to try that out.
Well, the timing of it, too, has me thinking that maybe there's going to be some kind of Control tie-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Well, I mean, you got to get Alan in there.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You got to get Alan through the doors of the oldest house now.
Yeah. And I know we had talked about it on a previous podcast that thinking that Alan will be involved, in some way, shape, or form in Control Resonant. And yeah, like I would honestly be surprised if he wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was writing events that happened in Control in AWE. You know, he knew about all the things, all the important things. Jesse, Polaris, like by name, and the previous director and all kinds of things. So, in a way, he guided her too. Not just Polaris, but Alan through his writing.
Yeah,
And he is probably the world's biggest peeping Tom ever.
What a pervert.
No, not like that. That's not what I meant. He's what Dora said. He's opening up doors that he shouldn't be. He's peeking in. He's like, he's going places that Dora doesn't feel he should be. Oh no.
Sorry.
So anyway, we have actually some more information since I wasn't familiar at all with Phasmophobia. So we got some information off of the interwebs and we're going to go ahead and read it for you. So we all, can give you a little bit of context into this aside from our words. So here we go.
Phasmophobia is a psychological horror game developed and published by Kinetic Games. It became available in early access in September 2020 on Steam. In the game, 1 to 4 players take on the role of ghost hunters who work to complete a contract where they must identify the type of ghost haunting a designated site and complete other optional objectives. Players can leave whether or not the objectives have been met. After closing the truck door with all players alive inside, the contract will end and players will be rewarded with money and experience based on the completion of objectives and secondary evidence collected. These rewards can be used to purchase or unlock equipment and progress in the game.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting. There was limited information that I could find, like just in the short period of time that I had before we did this. But that's helpful. So really, congratulations to both Remedy and Kinetic Games for this partnership, and we hope, or at least I hope, that it's a great success for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, looking forward to it and really excited to play it.
Speaking of playing things, we have been playing Quantum Break.
We have.
Yes, and last night you read the time knife, some of the time knife. So anyone that's played Quantum Break probably remembers, at least I hope they do, the time knife. Was it a script?
Yeah,
someone was pitching
like a screenplay,
to Dr. Amaral, where they pitched it to her. Yeah, so the screenplay, yeah. So like this is like really just far out there, but it was just something that reminded me of when Jesse in the preview for Resonant stabs Dylan. It reminded me of the time knife. So which was a super corny thing, but what was it? The protagonist, I guess, gets a time knife, which is a knife that when you stab someone with it, it sends them traveling through time.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and so like they don't die, apparently. They just get sent to a different time. But I think it did talk about them branching off into different realities.
Yeah, I remember, in part of his screenplay, how he stabs the chair and then all of a sudden...
the chair disappears.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the picture that he has on the wall that's from like the 1930s or whatever. Yeah, the chair is in there.
Yeah, with 1930s people.
Yeah, 1930s people,
Yeah, that was fun to read, but it also reminded me of like, how Jesse stabs Dylan, but he's not showing up dead. He's showing up very much alive in the game. So even though we don't know what that, I guess, ritual is, when I think of that, I think of Langston right away, because Langston is super knowledgeable about these OOPs and altered items. And he is very much all about treating them with respect, and you got to know what to do. You need to know how to keep them calm. And he's like into the iconography or whatever. I mean, he really has it together as far as like how he sees these and what they need, which is really interesting. What they need. He talks about them like they're people.
Right.
He doesn't brush them off as some kind of flawed object.
Yeah, and
know, he was trying to get into Dylan's cell, remember?
That's
and they
right.
stopped him.
Yeah.
And he complained about it. So it makes me wonder what he was going to try to do with Dylan. If he was going to try to set him free, if he was going to try to, you know, help him somehow, if he was going to try to do something to make him calm and happy, you know, like the other objects that he has in the Panopticon. Because Dylan, well, I don't know if they classify Dylan as an altered individual, but they do Alan Wake.
Yeah. Well, you know, the talk about the time knife, it's really got me thinking, you know, where it does show that part in the trailer where Jesse stabs him and then he ends up in another place. I mean, who's to say that the aberrant, however you say it, is like a quote unquote time knife, and
something similar to that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if there was no Slobbo in Control Resonant, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, that screenplay was just hilarious. So corny, but that's what made it so funny. Yeah, it's really worth it to read everything in these games. It's so important. Even the smallest details come out to mean something.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I've been playing it, I try to search just every nook and cranny, trying to get all the information, you know, make sure I'm not missing anything. Because, yeah, I mean, with all the documents there are to read in Quantum Break, that even, you know, missing a couple documents could really leave out some crucial information.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because right now you're playing, you know, and I watched you play Quantum Break, and you chose Amy. We chose to go with the PR stunt thing. But if you choose the other option, which is, you know, Monarch kills everyone, then all the witnesses, that is, then we get to play as, you know, or play with Nick, who is the cab driver, who is also played by the same guy that plays Dylan, same actor that plays Dylan. And it is so, he's so funny. He's so likable. But I really loved seeing Dylan together with also the same actress that plays Jessie.
Yeah. I know you showed me a couple of those scenes, and yeah, it looked really funny. Kind of makes me wish that I had chosen where Monarch does kill all the witnesses. But I am looking forward to continuing on with the game and getting more of those documents. You know, learning more information about Jack Joyce and everything that happens in the game.
Okay, so well, this is all we have today so far. One more thing, we put together a little slideshow, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we can put on this. It kind of shows like sort of what we've been posting during the week that maybe many people didn't see, you know, that are, you know, fun. So yeah, maybe we can leave off with that.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, I enjoyed this third episode for our Remedy This podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what else comes out for our next podcast.
I am too. Yeah, absolutely looking forward to, you know, any other tidbits of information that Remedy decides to drop.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and play that little slideshow then, and I'll meet you back next Sunday.
All right, sounds good.